It's tax season again, and if you're like the many who have yet to file their taxes, not to worry because joining us today is George Letticoat, tax resolution specialist with SBA Accounting and Tax Solutions, to talk to us about the right way to file your taxes. Welcome, George. How are you?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
George, first of all, besides you helping people with their taxes, what other services do you offer?
We offer accounting and bookkeeping services, business advisory services, as well as tax planning, tax preparation, and tax problem resolution.
Okay, and then this year, what are some of the changes taxpayers should look forward to?
Well, there were some tax extenders passed right at the end of last year that may mean that a taxpayer should go back and look and see if they were denied something last year. Some of them were made retroactive, so they may have some benefits, so they need to see a tax professional to correct that or set it straight through an amended return. And then others they'll look at with their tax professional to see how it works this year.
And you're there to help them out, right? George, what are the things that people need to file their taxes?
Well, if you don't file your taxes, that's where you start opening yourself up to some jeopardy. Number one, there's a failure to file tax penalty that could be up to 25% of the tax that you owe. Then there's a failure to pay penalty that's another 25%. So it just piggybacks itself on and on.
Definitely. Okay, talking about those penalties, when is the last day for people to file?
It's really, if you don't have enough money, you should go ahead and file anyway, because that takes off half of the penalty potential. And then there are all sorts of ways, such as installment plans, partial pay installment plans, to help you file your taxes that you might owe.
Okay, and then for those, George, that haven't done their taxes in years, what could they do?
Well, they need to, number one, file their taxes and start. The IRS will usually let them get by filing the most recent 6 years. State of California has an unlimited number, and they may want it even longer than that. I have a gentleman that has to file a 1998 tax return.
1998 tax return. Okay, that's interesting because, you would think that, you're not allowed to make those taxes anymore, but people still have options, right?
They still have options, and the IRS is becoming more emphatic on enforcement. So the chances that they're going to get caught are increasing. The IRS added 1,000 new employees last year and are expected to add 5,000 this year. So enforcement is the key.
Okay, and then for those that already filed their taxes, they have to file them until next year, right?
Yes, that's correct, as long as they don't owe anything. Or if in their preparing their taxes, it said they ought to make estimated payments. Used to, we'd make the statement of here's some estimated payments, and most of us would kind of forget about it and do it, and not do it. But now the IRS says, you owe us some money. Please make your estimated payments. And if they happen to need a resolution mechanism, not making those payments could prevent that from happening.
That is true. And George, as a specialist, do you recommend if people owe to the IRS, should they just kind of add it to their tax return for them to kind of deduct it from there? What do you recommend?
It really depends on the situation. There's not just a one size fits all. You got to look at each one and say, okay, what's the best form of resolution? Okay,
and then, as a specialist again, what do you recommend for those people that could fall into scams when it comes to taxes?
Well, number one, the IRS is not going to call them. So if they get a phone call asking for money, just hang up. There is a way to report those scams to the IRS if you want to go to that much trouble. Or if you're like me, every now and then you'll play them along with them and just have some fun.
And start asking them those questions, right, to see what they say.
Exactly. And then somehow they forget that they need to hang up.
Exactly. George, and then for those that are watching and they want to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
Our best bet is to give us a call at 559-369-7691 or go to one of our websites, sbataxhelp.com, and click on the contact form and we'll get back to them.
There you guys have it. And George, I know that there's so many options now online to do your own taxes, right? Why should people go to a specialist instead of doing that?
Well, there's 70,000 pages or more in the IRS tax code. So the online services are there, but you probably can't figure them. I'm actually working with somebody right now who did it themselves, and they missed some deductions that would be favorable to them. So, you know, we're supposed to, as tax professionals, know a lot better. We do a lot more tax returns than just one each year. So.
Exactly. So to avoid those mistakes, go to George, right? George, thank you so much for being here with